say Tapawingo without calling out the Bacardis, a wonderful youth hockey family. So thanks to them for all of their support of not only youth hockey, but of the Too Many Men on the Mic live musical show, right?
I think it's match made in heaven.
Can you guys parlay some of these gigs into some golf rounds for us? Or
we can get two sums. It's too many men. Too many men on the mic.
Well, you know, Jared, we can work on that.
I see your tailor-made hat, though, Grant. I know you're pushing.
I got to
know
the
the agenda
this weekend. I'll just say that.
Look, Grant, we can work on that. I think what's required is you have to actually come to the show.
We'll work on that.
I mean,
too.
we'll actually play some songs that were done after you were born. I think we've got one. Drive by Incubus.
Oh yeah, that was done after.
Drive by
if I know more than how many songs are in a set?
We've got
about 12 or 13.
Then we have
you'll sing 12 or 13.
Well, we have two sets.
Okay, so you'll sing about 24, 25 songs.
It's a twofer. Did you not hear when we got on the show?
If I know, I would set the line of the songs that I know that you sing at 4.5.
Well, you know one now because that song you let in with might be mixed in.
Well,
never knew it before that.
we have a fantastic show today. I'm super excited about it. We have a great guest. I just happened to hear this particular gentleman on Sirius XM's NHL Morning Skate a couple weeks ago. Jeff Brown from the Mindful Hockey Club, and Jeff is doing great things for youth hockey players out there. He is controlling negative self-talk. He's detaching players from fear or failure, building a bulletproof mindset. And when he's not doing that, Coach, what is he doing?
Well, Jeff he comes with a very unique perspective. You and I have coached with and know a lot of former pro hockey players, whether they played at the NHL level, overseas, ECHL, AHL, always Hungry League. And so part of Jeff's, value proposition, I guess is the best way to put it, is he's helping kids and hockey players in the greater Toronto area on ice develop their skills. So he has a level of credibility that I think goes beyond just your average, whether you want to call them the mental coach or sports psychologist. And then he's parlayed his education. Of course, we looked up his hockey DB and elite prospects, but he's parlayed that education into, helping players with their, overcoming fear. There's a phrase that he uses that I absolutely love. And it is fight off the allure of results and focus on the process. And I want to dig into that. There's a ton of stuff I want to dig into.
Well, without further ado, producer Grant, can you pull Jeff in?
Hey, Jeff, welcome to Too Many Men on the Mic. I would say our inaugural Canadian, but that would not be true. But our first Canadian who's actually talking to us from Canada. So how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, boys. Appreciate you bringing me in here from north of the border. Great to be with you guys.
See, now, if you've listened to the show, you know that one of us is not from St. Louis and one of us being from Detroit.
Here we go.
And so I mean, I grew up closer to you than I did to everybody down here in St. Louis. I was not a Maple Leafs fan.
Jeff, I know this is your first time on the show, but frequently what happens on these weekly shows is we delve into the Detroitism of Jared's background, and it's just wired into his brain.
I mean, I grew up north of Canada. That's true. Windsor, Canada's Windsor's south of Detroit.
Jeff, I mentioned
I got traded to the Windsor Spitfires my last year in the OHL, so I ventured down to Louis Arena and caught some games, and I can't say that I'm a Red Wings fan. Unfortunately,
you were never hanging out on Ouellette Street, though. You were never hanging out on Ouellette Street after 2 a.m., were you?
Oh, I was actually. I was there. I was babysitting Zach Kassian.
They call it the Windsor Ballet, Drew, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, Jeff, we were just talking about not only are we doing a weekly youth hockey show, but every now and then we also have a little two-man acoustic duo show that we do. We have one after this show tonight, and it's a beautiful day outside. So on the back side of this, we're going to be picking and grinning, playing some music outside.
And we're playing a song by the Guess Who, a great Canadian band.
Guess Who is a fantastic band.
There you go.
You got your Thursdays figured out.
But Jeff, I heard you on Sirius XM's NHL Morning Skate a couple weeks ago. What a cool thing you're doing for youth hockey players out there with the Mindful Hockey Club. And you're also doing double duty as the OHL Brantford Bulldogs mental performance coach. What else do you do?
Yeah, thank you very much. This started for me as a passion project. After I finished playing pro hockey over in Europe, I got into kind of healthcare. I got into sales and was working, and that's what I do now. I work in mergers and acquisitions for a healthcare company. But my part-time gig and my passion project is the Mindful Hockey Club, and it's really kind of snowballed for me. It's been really great. It started out as, for me, I wanted to get into coaching, but with my work schedule, it wasn't in the cards for me to be a head coach or assistant coach, in GTHL here in Toronto. So what I decided to do is to coach privately, but I wanted to do it from a more holistic perspective. So, for me throughout my career, mindfulness and focusing on my mindset was something that I didn't discover until I was late in my 20s over in Europe and started to, work on things like breathing technique and having a mental strategy and coping with my own challenges. So, now that I'm able to kind of help out the next generation of hockey player and start to the same way that we work on our slap shot and work on passing, we got to start working on our mental game, and just happy to be a part of it. And it's been great so far.
I'm taking a look at your Hockey DB, your elite prospects here. It looks like you did university in Canada. They call it university in Canada, Drew, by the way. And you started off, it looks like you were in London at Western Ontario. And then finished up in Toronto. And I'm assuming, was this part of your academic journey aside from playing hockey? I mean, it feels like a big part of this catalyst is doing a lot of self-reflection and seeing how you were able to propel your success. But were there external factors? Did you have a person who helped you along this journey that you were like, hey, this is another way I can give back?
Yeah, well, to be completely candid, throughout my junior hockey and OHL career, I dealt with some pretty severe anxiety, and it was something that was undiagnosed and something that I just learned to live with, and a lot of it had to do with just basically getting too focused on the results and where I wanted to go in hockey and start playing pro, and I started having like these kind of panic attacks that came on my last year of hockey in the OHL. And, looking back, it was a pretty scary part of my life because I didn't know how to handle what was happening and was getting short of breath before games. I was getting scared to even go to the rink. And this is the game that I've played since I was 4 years old. If there's anything I'm good at and it's hockey at this point in my life. Right. And so, that being a very tough challenge for me, it actually led to, me being able to understand a lot about anxiety, a lot about, fear of failure, a lot about, getting too focused on results and not focusing on, staying in your process and playing free and trying to get yourself to a place when you're an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid. You don't need to, put the weight of the world on yourself, right? Everyone else is doing that for you. But, my self-talk and everything else, it was all screwed up. So, those challenges and, working through those throughout my 20s led me to a place now where, I've learned so much about how, using your breath to get back to the present moment, like how helpful that is. I have players that have reset routines that we build, and they're using those in between shifts. If they have a tough shift, get scored on, instead of having negative self-talk, we'll analyze that shift, we'll do some breathing, and then we have a trigger phrase, and, let's get back into the next shift. And these are all things that I've built throughout my 20s and now into my 30s. And I'm just happy to be able to use some of the challenges in my life, turn them around and give them back and give tools to the younger generation.
it sounds almost meditative, if you've, and I don't do meditation. I have some friends that have tried it. But transcendental meditation, they talk about your mantra and being able to find that word to find focus. It sounds like you're using some very similar techniques and taking some of the mental aspect and creating an actual physical trigger or like, are they saying the word? Is it thinking the word? This type of stuff fascinates me. And especially after some of the topics we've had here recently. And as Drew and I are coaching, teenage boys and girls, and anxiety is front and center with everyone. This type of stuff I think is where we've got to dive into. Hockey's the easy part, like you said.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And these are skills that, it's great to practice. And that's why, hockey is so similar to the game of life, right? Learning to be a good teammate, learning how to, deal with your nervous system when you get highs and lows and all the excitement of hockey and the big lows when you lose a game or you turn over a puck. And that's the thing. We need to realize that, it's hard because it's like, especially I live in Toronto, right? Youth hockey in Toronto is absolutely insane. So, I have parents all the time coming to me with all kinds of, different scenarios. But I think like a great way for me to kind of phrase it for you and for your listeners is kind of, what I do is I work with two things. One is a mindset and one is like mindfulness. So the difference is like a mindset would be your overall framework to how we approach challenges, setbacks, the belief systems that we carry, right? Like a growth mindset versus like a fixed mindset. And mindfulness would be what I talked about your breath, using your breath, the practice of being present, being aware of some of the things that you're doing, frustration when it comes up, you're noting it, you're not judging it, trying to calm your nervous system. And, together mindfulness, it supports building a strong mindset. So that's why those two things are kind of interchangeable. And, it's something like you said before, like when it comes to, boys versus girls hockey and the youth today, it's like, yeah, I definitely see that there's a little bit of an elevated kind of, anxiety is a word that I think something that we understand more now. And then, something that, whether it's because of social media or a couple other things, it seems to be, at the forefront of in a lot of families. Right. So, when it comes to girls, I find that the principles of mindfulness and mindset, they apply to obviously both guys and girls, but how they're communicated can differ, right? Boys can often respond well to kind of direct, challenge-driven language, right? Well, girls kind of benefit more from relational coaching. You're creating trust with them, emphasizing like a team connection, reinforcing confidence through encouragement. At a younger age as girls, I think they can sometimes internalize setbacks more deeply. So kind of creating that space through talking and to allow them to process, challenges that can be helpful. So yeah, there's so much, so much juice in this type of coaching and work. So, I'm really hoping that, in the next 5 to 10 years that we start to integrate this type of coaching into kind of your everyday, coaches kind of, tactics, right? The same way that they go through strategy about a game, we need to be looking at how that we're, building the next generation of not only hockey players, but young individuals and young people.
Jeff, you just talked about both boys and girls, and it sounds like, this is great for both boys and girls to get skills. But let's talk about age for just a second. Is there an age group that you see the biggest impact through your teachings to really begin focusing on some of these programs that you offer?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think for me, like when it comes to the sweet spot, like I do think that, beginning this type of kind of coaching, the sweet spot tends to be around 13 to 16 years old, right? Because at that time, I believe that, you're old enough and mature enough to kind of understand some of these concepts. You have competition ramping up in your sport, expectation gets a little heavier. That's when things like pressure, identity, and comparison between you and other, your teammates and people in other teams, it gets a little bit ramped up, right? So I've worked with younger players, and I think it's really beneficial also for planting these seeds kind of early, and learning how to reset, focus on your breathing, building confidence in different ways. And then for me personally, I do really enjoy working with like the major junior level, like with the Bulldog players. I'm just getting started with them, but I definitely can see that a lot of these little mindset shifts that I'm able to during our sessions, it's like a lot of times I'm allowing the player to come to their own conclusions, right? It's kind of me kind of leading them in a direction, and they kind of discover maybe what's been holding them back, or a certain way of thinking that is, kind of limited their ability to play free, right? So to answer your question, sorry, I went a little bit of a roundabout way. I think the sweet spot would be, 13 to 16 years old and starting this type of stuff. That being said, there's no time like the present for anyone to kind of work on their mindset and their mindfulness. I think it's really beneficial.
Yeah, we have a phrase on this show, or I should say, I have a phrase.
You have a phrase.
The best time would have been yesterday. The next best time is now.
That's exactly it.
We had a topic last week that we really dove into player mindset, and one of the things, and we attacked it really from the coaches' standpoint. Both Drew and I are coaches. We're both hockey parents, and we were both, still are, just not as fast as we used to be hockey players. How do you work with coaches? Do you help almost like coach the coach? And I know that there's probably so much that you really can't do in a group setting. It's probably more effective in one-on-one with a player, but do you work with coaches, or are there things that you can impart on coaches to say, hey, as you're communicating with 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old boys and girls, how do you train a coach to be mindful and impact that coach's mindset? Because I think that's as a coach myself, I could use a lot of that. I could use some help.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's also like it's not your fault, right? As a coach, there's so much that goes into it, and it's also the strategy and managing, everything from budget to logistics, and then you got to get your practice going. So it's one of those things. It's often overlooked, but the answer is yes. I do work with coaches, and I have leadership workshops that I do with players and coaches, and also full teams, right? So with the coaches, I just try to chat with them and give them tools to kind of support their players' mental performance. It could be kind of something like helping them frame feedback in a more constructive way, setting team intentions before a game, right? Example of that is like, okay, like let's think of a word that we're all going to think about before this game. Let's say the word is tenacity, right? Tenacity is like that dog on a bone mentality, right? So setting the intention of like, hey, that we're going to be tenacious tonight before a game is kind of like, you can see how even, just kind of going through the definition of that word is like kind of can center a whole team on, okay, this is kind of our intention tonight, right? So things like that, or, guiding coaches kind of how to respond to certain situations as opposed to kind of react, right? Someone who's responding to someone to something is doing that in a way where, they're allowing themselves to like take in the information and then, respond in a way that they've kind of thought about before, and doing that in a way that's going to help their team. And then reaction is like, the ref makes a bad call, you're reacting, you're blowing up on the bench, your players are kind of seeing that. So, truth be told, coaches can definitely, get a lot from this. At the same time, I think, it all depends on the coach, right? Like, I think, a lot of this kind of mindfulness and different mindset kind of strategy, it is a little bit new school, right? So a lot of the, OHL and NHL guys who never grew up with this stuff, they might not be as open to it, but I'm finding more and more that people, are asking questions and trying to approach this new generation of hockey players in a way that's, we got to kind of figure out a way that, the mindfulness of a coach has a ripple effect, right, into the team, right? So I think people are realizing that. So I'm seeing more and more working with youth coaches for sure.
I love that he got it down to one word.
I was going to say respond don't react. So when he heard my question, he said, I said, I need some help. You're like, absolutely. He's like, it's not your fault. That's a man who knows his job. He's responding. You reacted. There's a ripple effect, Drew. There's a ripple effect.
Oh, man.
Hey, I think we've got to pay some love to our sponsors here in just a minute. But before we go to that, Jeff, I absolutely love that you got that down to one word, because Jared and I have talked about that a lot, and we've talked with other coaches about it, of intention, setting that intention with your team before you go on the ice. I've heard it framed in so many different ways. I've seen coaches that say 10 different things in the locker room. I've heard other coaches that say, let's highlight 2 to 3 things. You got it down to one word. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I appreciate the feedback.
Well, and we have one standing rule on this show. When it comes to coaching, we're all thieves.
We are.
So I'm furiously typing down everything you're saying, because as Drew said, I absolutely need help. I can coach a forecheck, but
there's some refs that like you.
Not many. But again, I think you have some time here to stick around for a little longer if we go to a break and come back.
Absolutely.
All
yeah,
right.
I'd love to keep chatting with you guys.
All right. Well,
awesome.
This first half of the show of Too Many Men on the Mic has been brought to you by 5B Designs. St. Louis hockey families and business leaders, if you need custom gear that stands out and stands for something, it's time to meet 5B Designs. Founded by Shannon Brahini, a proud St. Louis mom and entrepreneur, 5B Designs is a woman-owned small business that brings purpose to custom apparel. Whether you're suiting up your youth or high school hockey team or leveling up your company's branded swag, 5B delivers top-notch quality with a personal touch. If you need a team store, no problem. Corporate polls or event giveaways, they got you covered. 5B makes it easy with fast turnaround, flexible service, and designs your players or employees will love to wear. Check them out at stores.inksoft.com/5B Designs. That's the word 5, and see what purpose-driven apparel looks like.
In your city with Kelly and Gordon. It's the hottest